Zach, in regards to the offensive line, okay, that's been a trouble spot. Is there reason for hope?
It's tough to kind of figure out the offensive line position. I mean, they brought in two transfers that are really experienced: Kevin Williams Jr. from Northern Colorado and Hunter Anthony from Oklahoma State. These are two guys that have played a lot of college football, so they're hoping that those two guys can help this young offensive line. Because if you go look up the youth of this offensive line, you're talking about guys that are there's nobody that's even really a junior besides those two. I mean, you could talk about Newly, who's supposed to be the center. He's a junior, but there's just a lot of inexperience. Turner Corcoran, he just finished his first year. Bryce Benhart, he's going to be in his third year, but he's a redshirt sophomore. You got a ton of guys. I mean, Teddy was a guy that was huge last year, a big-time recruit, and he was a guy that did really well, but then he tore something in his knee as well. So I'm excited to see what shakes out of this line because I think they have a ton of tackles. We know the tackles were terrible last year. We know that was the biggest problem with Nebraska. They have a ton of size, but now how does it all gel and how do they figure out where each guy goes? And I mean, really, any guess is as good as mine right now. But I think that the two guys that they brought in to transfer are going to push these younger guys to obviously produce better because what Turner did last year, what Benhart did at left and right tackle, that's not gonna fly. I mean, with as much talent as Nebraska has and Scott Frost being in that prove it year, you can't have that play from your offensive tackles. So I think that the two guys they brought in are going to push these younger guys. We'll see if the younger guys can respond, but there's got to be massive improvement in the offensive line or else Nebraska is really not going to take that next step. I mean, sure, they could have average offensive line play and be a 7-5 team this year. But if you want to take that next step and show that you're a team that to be reckoned with in the Big Ten, you have to have good offensive line play. It's what Michigan had last year. It's what Ohio State's had for years. Penn State's had pretty good offensive line play. Obviously, we know Iowa and Wisconsin have that every year, and that's why they're at the top. So, I mean, all these weapons I'm talking about, I'm excited about all these position groups on the offense, but the offensive line it's the cog to it all.
Absolutely. It's a physical league. Most teams stake their pride on physical play at the line of scrimmage, and it is still football. So while we like to look at the numbers and look at the flashy players on the perimeter, the offensive line is where it all starts and probably the most important unit on the field as a group.